Welcome to the Village of Buchanan special meeting of April 5th and also our budget hearing. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we have an interesting meeting this evening. First, we're going to start with a presentation by Chris Kopp of O'Connor Davies regarding the audit. O'Connor Davies is our auditor, the company we use to audit. So Chris, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you very much for taking the time out of your night to let me present some of the results of your audit from May of this year.
Give me a second. I just want to set up, make sure we show this up the right way. How is it showing over there? No? Give me a second. To this one, here it goes.
Just bear with us. A little
You good?
technical
Perfect.
difficulties.
We're good now.
We're good. Okay.
I prepared a little PowerPoint for you so that you don't have to flip through the large book. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm first going to go over an overview of what we did and some of the required communications that we need to make with the board. We'll then talk about the results from your 2022 general fund, which is your main operating fund of the village. Then we'll talk about some of your major revenues, how you generated those revenues. We also put in some slides for your 5-year history. We won't go over those tonight. I just put them in there for you so you can kind of do a comparison from year to year. We'll talk about your major expenditures, again in the general fund. We'll talk about your fund balance because that's always interesting to everybody to hear your fund balance. You do operate some other funds, so we have their fund balances in here too, so I'll review those. And then we'll go over your debt service, and you have some bonds and you have some installment debt outstanding. So on the next slide, we'll talk about management's responsibility during the course of an audit. Your major responsibility is to select and implement appropriate accounting policies for a municipality of your size and complexity. Make sure your financial statements are presented in accordance with GAAP. To establish and maintain effective internal controls to protect your assets. To be in compliance with laws, regulations, and contracts. We think the most important one is to provide us with all the financial information so we can conduct the audit. And then key is to set the proper tone at the top, whereby if an individual or a citizen has an issue, they can bring it to your attention. Our responsibilities, our deliverables, are to provide you with the independent auditor's report, the required communications, which we're doing now, the management letter. We also need to communicate with you any fraud or illegal acts that arise during the course of the audit. We're very pleased to say that none were brought to our attention nor none known. And we do that by interviewing different personnel each year to try to get their impression of what is transpiring in the village. We didn't encounter any difficulties in conducting our audit. No one corrected misstatements. What that means is that during the course of the audit, we might have proposed a journal entry and management reviewed those journal entries and posted them all to their books. And there were no disagreements with management. So on the next slide, we'll talk about your general fund. Now, I did exclude your fire service awards program because that's really not part of your budget, but you do have it. So if we look at the 4 columns that we set up, we have your original budget, the final budget, your actual results, and then the variance. So again, if we start in the first column, the original budget, the 3 numbers up from the bottom, you see a negative $58,000. If every revenue and every expense hit right on target, right on budget, you planned on using $58,000 of your fund balance to balance your budget. That wasn't that you appropriated it. It's what's known as encumbrances. Those are open purchase orders from the prior year where they weren't fulfilled in time. So what happens is that those budget appropriations roll forward to the next year. During the course of the year, you did not modify that, so you didn't appropriate any more fund balance. But then we look at your actual results, and instead of being a negative $58,000, you generated a surplus of $564,000. How did we do that? Number one, Vic will take you through some of the details in a few minutes. But really, you had revenues. If you go up to the first line, you see the revenues came in totality about 800,000 over budget. Your expenditures came in under budget by about 300,000, generating a surplus of about 1.16 million. But you did, under other financing sources, come up short by 538,000, leaving you with a net budget to actual profit of $623,000. And I will take you through some of the details to the major revenues, and then I'll talk about fund balance and the other ones.
Good evening, everyone. I am Viv. I'm the supervisor on the audit. As Chris explained, in slide 7, slide 5 is the summary, and we're going to present in slide 6 more details of budget versus actual for 2022 and also comparison with 2021 numbers. So major revenues, I would like to draw your attention to real party taxes and highlight the first 2 lines. As you can see, the party taxes went up by 500,000 in anticipation of the loss of revenue from the power plant. Even though it was offset by some of the funds from initial funds from the state grant, we have to increase the village have increased the party taxes for the project. The pilot payment, as you can see from last year, it went down by 700,000. And is also anticipated to go down further by 500,000 in 2023 and further down by 100,000 each year after that. In order to cover the loss of revenue, in line 6, you can see something that says cessation grant. This is the state funded grant for the loss of revenue from the pilot. That is supposed to cover for 7 years, 2022 being the first year. The village anticipated to collect 650,000 based on the estimate that was used during the budget allocation time. The actual came in better than the budget by 123,568. Next, I would like to draw your attention to earnings on investments. So village was able to save close to 90,000 on budget for that. Mainly, this includes the premium on the new bond issuance for 1.8 million. The premium is around 82,000. Also, village was able to get better returns in 2022 by investing in money market funds. Next, I would like to draw your attention to sidewalk and paving projects. Village was able to procure grants, state grants for these 2 projects, and the costs were covered mainly through these grants. So even though it's not budgeted, the cost and the revenue and expenses netted the budget to 0. The next line talks about ARPA. Village already received 230,000 of ARPA, but because the expenses were unknown at the budget time, this line was not budgeted. The village expended 104,000 for manhole repairs project, which is not anticipated during the budget time. After that, if you drop the line after total revenues, if you look at the general obligation bonds issued, this is for the new bond that was issued in 2022 March for 1.8 million. Part of it was used for general fund to pay tax settlement for 86,000. Village was able to convert its short-term loan into long-term debt in future and to save better future returns. The next line is for transfer in for water. Even though village budgeted 625,000 in anticipation of surplus in water fund, the anticipated surplus didn't come through, mainly because of reduced revenue, which Chris will touch base in 3 months.
So as you can see, your total revenues came in, like as I said, about $800,000 over budget. I think the thing that the board always has to consider is the source of that overage. A lot of the source of that overages are economically sensitive revenues. You receive mortgage tax, you receive sales tax. So we all know that the mortgage boomed during the year. After the pandemic, a lot of people wanted to get out of the higher density metropolitan area. They relocated to Westchester County. And in addition, if you remember back in the summer, interest rates were low, about 2.5 to 3%. And then the Federal Reserve started raising rates. So a lot of people were trying to refinance and close prior to those rate increases because they were anticipated, right after the market crash. So as you're going forward and you're looking at facing the problem of losing revenue associated with the pilot, just keep in mind that some of the revenues where you saw surpluses the last couple of years are tied to the economy. and might not be as robust in future years as they are now. I know sales tax revenue currently is still up significantly
Correct.
over the prior year. Even though, we're talking inflation and everybody mentions that bad word recession. But your sales tax revenue in Westchester has remained very strong. Again, whether that growth continues into your future budget years is another story. So again, you had a great year. Some of these revenues like ARPA and the grant are one-time revenues and won't repeat. So you just have to keep all that in mind that you had a great year, but some of it won't happen again.
Also, as Chris mentioned, slides 7 and 9 are just for your information, a comparison of the last 5 years. For revenues. Moving on to slide 8. We are talking again comparison the budget and 2021 for major expenditures. I would like to highlight the line contingency. So village had budgeted contingency for around 550,000 in anticipation of the changes related to the power plant closure. But it was able to save 107,000 the budget amount. So they came in better than budget.
What, I just want to make sure I got the right.
The page, slide 8.
Has it passed this one?
You went back, you go back
You're
through.
at 11, I think.
Oh, okay,
You're way ahead of it.
okay, Tom,
Mhm.
There you go.
right there, perfect, okay, cool, thank you.
So, as I mentioned, the first line contingency, so the village had budgeted 550,000 in anticipation of power plant closure, but ended up not using all of it and was able to save 107,000 of it. And the next line, I would draw your attention to hospitalization, medical and dental benefits. During the budget time, due to uncertainties for premium charges increase in human rates, village anticipated to spend more but came in less than budget by 70,000. This was also due to retirement, a couple of people retiring during 2022.
And that really accounts for most of the expenditures. I mean, your variants are very minimal expense. You did a great job staying within budgets. You stayed within your overall budget during the course of the year. And as I said, you even came in about $333,000 under the budget. On the next slide, and 2 slides down. Again, we put in a 5-year history just so you can track some of those major revenues as you're going through the budget process. We find it sometimes helpful to see 5 years next to each other. Next slide is your fund balance. So you can see on the last number that you ended up with a total fund balance of approximately 2.7 million. It's into 2 categories. You have restricted. So you have $1 million of restricted fund balance. 900,968 of that is your LoSAP. You can't use that for any other purpose other than LoSAP. You have $52,000 that the board is restricted for repairs to village property. And then you also have $2,000 with debt service reserve, which can only be used to pay down debt. The good news is you have about 1.7 million of unassigned. And at this point, again, facing a reduction in the pilot and the shifting of the revenue streams, having this fund balance is a great cushion for the village. And it probably would be prudent at this time to maybe look into a fund balance policy to see how you're going to use this money going forward so that you get the most value for the amount of money that you were able to put into your fund balance. You can see that it is up about $700,000 from the prior year. Again, some of that was in the LoSAP program based on the areas of investment. But as I said, you did generate $564,000 of surplus, and almost all of that fell to the bottom unassigned line, which is what you have available to cushion future year's expenses and also to address emergencies as they arise during the year. Again, we always like to tell the villages over here, we're older villages. Their infrastructure is older, so having this kind of reserve is important because we all know a water main break, sewer break, all that is very expensive these days. So having this fund balance, makes you like a little more comfortable. I wouldn't say the word easy. On the next slide, as I said, you do operate some other funds. The largest one you have is your water fund. And on the water fund, you do have $877,000 in fund balance. 396 of that is restricted. You can only use it to repair if a water main breaks or if something happens at the plant, you have the money to repair it. But I do want to point out that this year you did have a fund balance deficit of $16,000 in operating revenue. And that's even excluding the fact that you weren't able to transfer $600,000 to the general fund to cover those expenses that the general fund bears on behalf of the water. So if you had transferred that money over, you would have drained your fund balance. So the decision was to not transfer it over. All right. So one of the things we want to point out is that you did come short on revenue by about 1.37 million on the water fund. A lot of that is due to fortunate weather conditions. You know, if you get a lot of rain, people aren't using water. There was a drought. They said don't water the lawns. And also you had an issue, I think, down at the plant where, you know, a new meter was put in. So the revenue anticipation was down. The good news is that loss of revenue was offset because you do purchase all your water. So you did come in under budget on the revenue, but you only came in under budget on the expense side by about $750,000. So again, I think what you have to make sure is that when you put your budget together, you're not aware of what the rates are going to be charged by the New York City Water Commission. So I think you might have to become a little more flexible in looking at those rates, because any cost that's passed on to you needs to be passed on to the user of the waters. So you have your administrative overhead, which you do control. So you can figure out what that unit cost is per million gallons of water or whatever the rate is. And then when New York City publishes their rates, you might have to reevaluate your rate, because if they raise theirs, they're passing it on directly to you. And I think you also got hit with an excess water charge this year from the city of New York.
Some months.
Some months. And what the city does is based on the usage of its residents, it passes on an excess charge, which is a much higher rate to everybody also using the water, so that the cost of that system is shared. The rate is known, but your usage is never known. You also operate a special purpose fund, which has some money that is restricted for use. Right now, I believe most of that money is restricted for recreational purposes. It can only be used to enhance your recreational programs. And that money is put in there from a variety of sources. Either people make donations, or you get a user fee that somebody puts in there, or I think, as we pointed out, I think it was most of this was from Entergy at some point was in here for some work on the park.
This goes back
Years
many
and years.
years ago, because we had some developments some years ago, so developers had put money in also. I mean, it goes back so far, I can't,
We can't even tell.
it's been sitting there for a while, so I just want to interrupt you for 1 minute. So we did have a discussion yesterday, so that is not restricted. We had the discussion about it doesn't have to be used for new projects. It could be used for maintenance.
Yes, you maintain your facilities, your parks facilities to enhance the appearance of the parks, things like that. Anything parks related, recreational related, you know, that can benefit your citizens.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure. And then the last one is your capital projects fund. Right now, it looks like you have a $2.8 million surplus. But remember, that surplus is all for projects that the board has approved and just the money hasn't been spent. The bulk of that money came from the bond, as you pointed out. You did borrow $1.89 million this year. And, you know, just to point out that you timed the market fairly well. And again, as I said, with the mortgage rates going up, as the Fed raised its rates, you were able to convert your short-term debt, your bond anticipation notes, which were already outstanding. Instead of rolling them into short-term again, you converted them to long-term, and you got interest rates that were as low as 3%. So you did a great job on timing the market. You and your fiscal advisor did a, you know, good thing in converting that now, because municipals are up around 5, 6, 7%. So long-term savings to the village and the residents is going to be seen in that bond. On the next slide, again, is just a little summary. You only have the 2 bonds outstanding, very low debt in the village. You only had an old bond from 2016 that's almost paid off, probably be paid off in 2 years. Then you have the new one that you just took out this year for the 1.849 million. And you see on the amortization schedule that you know, you only have a little bit of debt each year. So that's good news for you, because you've spread your debt over a long period of time, and you replaced older debt with new debt, and you kept your payments very level, so less impact on the taxes. On the next slide, you just also have some what's known as installment purchase debt. So you've purchased some police vehicles or leased some police vehicles over the past few years. Those leases are done in 3 years. So again, you'll be either you're replacing with bonded money, you buy them outright. These payments will be gone and out of your budget, and you'll be off to a new start again. So again, the village had a very good year. You know, you're living within your budget. One thing I will point out too is that you did increase your contribution to your capital fund. by about $700,000 during the year. It transferred money over to some projects. And what you did there is you took some of this surplus and you used it to pay capital projects outright. And that saved, again, given the interest rates, you saved on having to bond that debt and incur interest and bear that interest cost over the next 10 to 30 years. So again, by using that money wisely to fund a capital project, again, you had a good impact on your budget and your future year's budgets. So that's pretty much the year in summary. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. That was a very good overview. And yesterday, myself and Wheels had met with Chris. Usually before this gets presented to the board, there's two trustees that will meet to go over some things. And since Wheels is new, I had asked him to come in. Any questions? It was a good review. Thank you. It was very clear.
And again, I'd like to thank Marcus and Cindy for all their assistance. Without them, you can't do the audit. I mean, they really are involved and they're a very big council. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. And I hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
So, the next, I'm gonna make a motion to open the public hearing regarding the IMA for the town sewer agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have been working on getting into an intermunicipal agreement with the town regarding, coming into our sewer treatment plants. And, I'm gonna give you a little historical background first, because not everybody comes to all the meetings or are aware. When Entergy had closed, they had a community fund and it was $15 million. We managed to etch out $6 million of it for our sewer treatment plant, since we were the most impacted community and we were the host community and we still are the host community. And once Entergy left the state, New York State took possession of the money. So they were in control of the money, and they told us that now that they controlled the money, they would be the ones to distribute it. So for us to get that $6 million, which is basically what it's going to cost to upgrade our sewer treatment plant to a more modern plant, more new technology, that we would have to join in with the town of Portland to work with them and to have them be able to use our sewer treatment plant. So it's been about a year of some tough negotiations with the town. And I'm just going to give you an overview of what that looks like. So we wanted to hold the public hearing this evening because it's our largest asset here in the village, and not every community has a sewer treatment plant or a wastewater plant. So you're going to hear both ways, but the older word would be, the older description would be a sewer treatment plant, and I still use that. So I'm going to just give you a basic overview of it. There's connection points. So one of the connection points will be by St. Christopher's, across the street from St. Christopher's, and that will go from St. Christopher's to the train station for the town to connect in. Once it connects in, and George has told us many times, I'm glad George is here tonight, it's gravity fed and it goes into our plant by gravity. There's no pump. The other part of the agreement is they will be able to hook up by the 99 acres. And so I know a lot of people are questioning, can Plank residents come into the system? No, the agreement is just for the 99 acres in development there. So it'll benefit the town because now they'll be able to develop different areas. The original agreement was approximately 32 properties in the Montrose business development, and then it bloomed from there. So we also were able to get a surcharge, a 30% surcharge. There was a lot of disagreement, I would say. The town wanted to come in for the same price as the village residents. And we were adamant that it just wasn't fair to our village residents that an outside entity should pay the same as our village residents. So there is a 30% surcharge. And I would like to thank Marcus. He did a chart for us, showing us what the 30% would look like. And so a lot of our discussions were based on that 30% surcharge. They will pay the fair share of capital cost and repairs. They must adopt our sewer code and abide by our rules. They will put in their own infrastructure. And one of the most important things is, and I know Stephanie and George, and I think Marcus at the time, had talked to other municipalities. And what their biggest regret was, is that they did not have a reopener. So in our agreement, there is a reopener. So if there is an issue going down the road, we're able to reopen it and renegotiate. They are allowed 100,000 gallons per day. If there is another tank, 25% of that other tank or the increased capacity. So what does this mean to the village? It means that we will be able to access the $15 million Entergy. It's not state money. And I just want everyone to understand that that money did not come from state grants. So we will be able to access that money. We'll be eligible for many more grants. And there is just no one happier than me. I have been working on this since 2010. Oh my God. So a little history going back in around 2010. The board at that time had gone to the residents and asked them to approve a bond. They did approve the bond to upgrade the sewer treatment plant to the fine bubble fusion, the new technology. And that never happened for several different reasons, and I'm not going to go into detail. So this has been in the works since 2010. So when 2017 came along, the announcement of the $15 million, of course, we were going after that money. So we'll be able to upgrade to the new technology. And like I said, the approximate cost, it was under $6 million a few years ago, George. I'm sure it's up to 6 million or more now. We'll be able to upgrade the pump station on Albany Post Road, and there'll also be grant money available if needed to add another tank on the property. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm happy to see this come to fruition. So it was some challenging, shall I say, challenging discussions and negotiations, right, Anthony?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But we've come this far, and we've come to this agreement now. And George, would you like to add anything to this?
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. Yeah, it was a long process. The board did a great job with work sessions and getting familiar with all the issues and the problems. And Stephanie, Marcus, and myself spent many an hour going back and forth to editing. So a lot of thought went into it, a lot of editing. Everyone did a lot of input by a lot of people. So I think this is the end product of a lot of work. So that's it.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Stephanie, Marcus. It was a long road to get here. So this is where we are. Any other board members, Stephanie? Because I can't tell you how many times she redid the agreement, redid it. So like you said, George, this is the end product, and it's the best that everyone, working together could do to protect the village by having an outside agency come into our plan. Any other comments?
I'd just like to thank Stephanie. She really did a lot of work on this. George as well. She rewrote the agreement numerous times with numerous changes, sometimes for no reason. And she worked hard and diligent, and she took feedback from all of us, and we were productive, and we got it done. So I'm glad that we got it done. I think it's a good thing for the village. I think it's a good thing for the community, the Tri-Village area. And it's gonna help us in the future.
Because we need an upgraded sewer plant to do, more development, which is, especially when we do the 240 acres. Well, not all 240 at once, but, the acreage over at Indian Point, we're gonna need that increased capacity.
I would just like to echo what Anthony and Teresa were saying. Stephanie, Marcus, George were instrumental in putting this together. And there was a lot of work involved, okay? It was constantly Stephanie in frustration, having to rewrite different parts of the agreement, but I have the utmost faith that what she put together has our best interest. That's it. So, thank you.
You're welcome. So it got done. It got done well. Yeah. So, any comments? Everybody's good on the board. Any other comments? Okay. thank you.
I'm new here, and I wasn't really part of these proceedings with all the work I do has been done with Stephanie and George and Marcus. I think there are three biggest tools we have here at the board. So if I understand everything's been going finally the right way with this plan, and I'd like to thank the board for all the hard work they've done in it too.
Any comments from the floor?
Did you open the public hearing? Officially?
Yeah, I did. I
Okay,
Republican
okay.
voted, yeah. Thank you. Sometimes I get talking and I get carried away.
Just to make sure.
Boy, he's really putting you on the spot.
Hey, Gareth.
Public hearing?
Yes, yes, sir, please.
You know it.
Oh, boy.
Good evening, board, mayor, trustees,
Evening, Eric.
George, everybody. Welcome, Bobby Wheeler to the board. Everybody kind of knows me. I've been around for a little while. And I want to say that probably 6-8 weeks ago, I was talking to Marcus one day, and evidently I thought this was dead in the water. And I thought it was, then all of a sudden it got revived like overnight. And he was nice enough to send me the IMA agreement, which I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to say that maybe this lawyer who drew it up and another handful in the United States could figure out what the hell's in that thing. I mean, there's some crazy stuff in 28 pages, 26 pages, something like that.
Something like that.
Okay, so the only two things, which you answered one of them, was I didn't know if the people coming in, the Montrose Improvement District and they're planning, they're gonna pay more to get into our line. Okay, so that, because I was a little, trying to figure, so if there's any problems with where they hook up or back that way, that's their problem. Whoever's gonna own that entity of it, which is the town, right?
Right.
Okay. So, that was one thing. The other thing, George said everything's gravity. But if they go to the Cortland train station, there's no way that's gonna be gravity.
Gravity was for the first 34 properties.
George, get closer to
The
the mic.
Yeah, the
I'm sorry.
connection.
If it goes down to the train station, yes, that it goes that far, yes, they'll be pumping up.
That's
Yeah.
all.
But
They'll be responsible.
And
for
they'll
that.
be responsible. And they'll be responsible. And down in Burplank, where that is, if that development goes, they're probably gonna need to get some pumping from there to get it to go gravity.
Same thing.
Same thing. Okay. All right. So the only other thing I would like to say about this is that the most important thing we have as a village left to us is 200 plus acres at Indian Point. And although I won't be here to see it, I could foresee condominiums, townhouses with a marina down the bottom, because we have White Beach down there, which is plenty deep enough for everybody to go jump in. And I'm not worried, but I'm concerned that we're gonna have enough capacity without extending the sewer plant itself. And I know you can't answer that because it's hypothetical. You don't know how many units are gonna go in there, but between the other two projects we have going right now that are probably gonna go through, and adding on these other two areas, I'm just asking here.
But yeah, so if I
Go ahead,
can
George,
answer that,
yes.
sure. as part of the upgrade, we are requesting from the DEC an upgrade in our funding. So that's part of the process.
And upgrading our permits for processing
Expansion.
or for expansion?
Expansion.
So you said there's this money that you're gonna get through the state to redo the sewer plant. So are we redoing the sewer plant with that money for the village residents or to make this project come through?
No, we have to upgrade the plant. We are under a DEC consent order. And they have been very decent working with us because we have the plan is working well. I mean, thank God, everything is, we've got Todd Travis here who works over there in a company that's taking care of our plant now. So it's working well, but our technology is so old. They don't want that type of technology. So to answer your question, I'm not avoiding it. To answer your question, first of all, we have to upgrade it, but second of all, we'll have the capacity because when the new technology comes in, it's a better process and there'll be more capacity, but we're also eligible to get grant money to put in another tank. So it's a 2-phase. It's like, it's a couple of phases. So if we do need the other tank, that will trigger getting more grant money.
Okay, I get that, but it's not the prime reason to expand the plant, to bring these two bring these two entities into it, is it? Is
Well,
that the prime?
no, because right now the plant can handle, what are we doing, 300,000 gallons a day now?
Correct.
So, George, if you could explain how much we have in what we can, do now and what would potentially be coming in from the town.
So, our permit is 500,000 gallons a day. We're at about 200, 250. The two developments that you mentioned, they can come into the plant, without. Which probably bring us up to about 350. And then what we're giving to the town is 450. So we don't need them to expand or upgrade. And then as part of that, we're asking the DEC, as the mayor said, when we put the new technology in, to increase our permit limit. Even if we kept the footprint of the plant the same, we want to increase our limit because the new technology allows us to increase it.
Okay, so I can get that. I understand that. I guess I was a little concerned certainly about this, the amount we could take in, adding on all these things. I didn't want to see us sell out the most important part of the future of this village down the road. Like I said, to me, it's ending the point. It's never going to be built where the power plant was, and we all know that, but the rest of the property is going to be prime property. And I just don't want to, didn't want to lose that opportunity. So I guess you probably answered most of my questions. I'm going to be honest with you. I've only read about 6 or 8 pages of the IMA. I fell asleep twice and I had to get a nap. So I have to be honest with you. Screw what they say about lawyers. They can put you asleep in a heartbeat. But I'll say it seems you've done a commendable job in putting the IMA together. Like I said, I didn't really have enough time to read it. I probably wouldn't have enough time to read it going home tonight and start on it, but I'm assuming you guys went through it page by page and everybody's kind of in agreement with what's going on. Like I said, really my only concern is I hope we're okay in the future with the Need Point property. Last question, quick, George, what's our speeds right now?
500,000
A day?
a day.
Thank you.
And that's being
Thank you,
increased.
Board.
Thanks.
Thank
Gary.
you, Gary.
Thanks.
Right, that will be increased as well.
That'll be increased.
We
Yeah.
are requesting for that to be increased as well.
And if the EC is gonna let them do that,
It's in process, yeah.
are they gonna, are they gonna let them do that?
If it's designed properly and it can be substantiated, they shouldn't have any reason to not do it.
Okay.
And like I said, Urgent Point expanding is part of that reason. So, that's.
500,000. I remember when it was like 250 or something.
Well, it's 250 each side, so the permit itself is 500.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Eric. Thanks for the questions. Anyone else with any comments? With the IMA?
I got a hand raised. There you go. You're on, Eileen.
Okay, good evening. I have a question. Is that train station the upper train station or the lower one? Where does that stop?
The lower one.
Lower one. So that's going to include the two strip malls. My question, and also the Teamsters, and then it goes to that road that goes into the bottom train station, correct?
No, it's not gonna include the bottom train station.
Well, you just
Talking
said
about the
something.
road after the bridge. Yeah, Steve's right, but it's right before the bridge. That piece of property that we used to know as Bobby Toll's Fantasy Acres,
Right,
that's the piece of property where they are going to build. That's the limit, actually. That's the limit of the pipe the infrastructure.
okay. So if Kathy Hochul gets her way with the budget and gets 800,000 affordable housing, is there a projection of putting apartments, since it's within a half a mile of the train station, taking that land and putting affordable housing in there? And if that were to happen, hypothetically, would that be connected to our sewer treatment plant?
Yeah, it would be connected to us. That would be part of the transit oriented district. But that's in the town of Cortland, so they would have to make a decision if that's what they want to do.
And
So they could-
and right, they are held to that 100,000 gallon.
Well, my question in regards, when Gary was asking, are we going to have enough? If that were to happen, again, this is all hypothetical, but for whatever reason, our government works in strange ways. If they put X number of housing in there, whatever that may be, and the town decided that would have to be renegotiated with the village?
They are allowed 100,000 a day, so they have to choose what projects they want to do. So, you know what I'm saying? It's not suddenly they're gonna get 200,000 gallons. That's the agreement is
They're
100,000.
limited to those corridors and they're limited to the.
I agree. But what I'm asking is that would they have to renegotiate if that were the case?
With
With
who?
us?
With the village?
Yes, with the village.
Yeah, well, we can't give what we don't have. So like
Okay.
George said, we're doing maybe let's say 250 a day. We're giving them 100, that's 350. That gives us 150 leeway variance there right now, as it stands right now. So they can't go over the 100,000. We could put in another through grants, put in another tank, but that might,
limited to 25%.
yeah.
And they are
As well.
limited to 25%
Yeah.
of any additional
Yeah.
capacity.
The reason why I asked that is because I thought that you just said that they could renegotiate. Now, granted, you only gave them X amount of gallons. I understand that. I just didn't know if that would be something that they could come back and say, can we do that? And if it does go over, does it mean that you have to have another tank? Or would it be just that they couldn't because they would exceed their allowance?
For us to get the other tank, we'd have to prove, that we need it. But I don't see any board, committing to more than the 100,000 gallons, because, we would of course listen to the engineer, and we just don't have that extra capacity.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. You're concerned that, yes, they could come back and ask us. There is a reopener. They could come back and ask us, but we can't give what we don't have.
Are you asking, Eileen, if we're gonna be forced into allowing an extra capacity
No.
more than we guaranteed?
No, not necessarily forced, Anthony, but when you say a reopener or a
Mm.
renegotiation, that's more of what I'm wondering. I
The reopener is basically to protect us more than
Yeah.
them.
know that.
If we come across extra expenses, or we feel that the price of our sludge removal or whatever else it may be goes up, we need to reopen the negotiations to get more money from them. So the reopener is not for them per se, or for anybody else. So they are capped at a maximum of 100,000 gallons a day, or 25% if we decide to put the new tank in.
Right. No, I read the whole IMA.
Good.
I didn't fall asleep, but I did read it. So I was just curious, because it really didn't state train, when you said train station, you've got an upper train station and a lower train station, and it really didn't say it included Bobby Toll's property, whoever owns that now. So I didn't know where that actually was. And that's really open land that could be, put into affordable housing. So I didn't know how that would work with the village. But you've answered the question. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ellen.
Thanks, Eileen.
Any other questions or comments? Is the board prepared to vote on this evening?
Yes?
Okay, so what I'm gonna first do is close the public hearing. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on the IMA with the town sewer agreement.
Second that?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're gonna vote on it this evening. So I'm going to make a motion to agree with the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Portland for the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah. Hold on,
Teresa,
I'm sorry.
You just want them to authorize you to sign the agreement.
Okay,
that's all.
That's all you have to do.
well, that's an easy one.
Yes.
Okay. Did I tell you I was going to Tahiti for 2 months? Oh, I didn't mention that, sorry. No. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion for the board to authorize me to sign this intermunicipal agreement with the town of Portland for their connection to our sewer system. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor, I would just like to, think it'd be proper for me to abstain from this because I haven't been part of the proceedings and the negotiations.
All right, thank you, Russ. Okay, thank you, everyone. And then now we have some fun things. We do this every year. Marcus prepares our annual budget. And this is our tentative budget hearing this evening. And what we will do is after I open up the public hearing, I just want to let everyone know that we will not be voting on this evening. That will be voted on
The 25th.
on the workshop on the 25th. So this is the evening to ask questions. We have to have our budget approved by May 1st. We are not like the state where we can just extend it. I'm understanding now the state was supposed to be done by April 1st every year, but now they pushed it out to April 10th, but you have to be done by May 1st. So,
Two good reasons. Two very good reasons.
okay, so I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing on the 2023-2024 tentative budget. And I have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Marcus did a review at our last workshop. And Marcus, and then also Chris Pop answered a lot of the questions too, I'm sure, with his audit. But what I'd like you to do, because there might be people that haven't heard your overview, if you could please do it again, or, the highlights.
I'll do a quick little highlight for
Sure,
everybody.
thank
Hopefully, since it's not gonna be voted on tonight, it will be the next meeting. Have the opportunity to look at the workshop from the last meeting. I don't want to waste everybody's time. It was about a half an hour presentation. So please take a look at that. But at the high level, we're talking about the original proposed budget of 1.91% increase to the taxpayer. That will be an average increase of about $51.69 a year, or $4.31 a month. Now, the issue that I explained in detail was the issue is we have the whole tech pilot and the cessation fund that's actually is decreasing over time. And in fact, in a couple of years, it actually goes away. Hopefully there are negotiations going on with HOTEC to get to a new pilot, but I'm planning ahead just in case and being proactive, not to have substantial increases in taxes of 50% in 3 or 4 years, to try to spread that out over time, assuming the worst case scenario. That will be a 6% increase. So a total of 8.03, which comes out to an average house about, which is assessed at $443,000 of $216.82 or $18.07 a month. Again, that's worst case scenario. If we get a new pilot arrangement done with HOTEC before next year's budget, that can hold change. And then that 6% increase can go away. But that 6% increase, I'm anticipating to go on for the next couple of years in order to make sure we cover the outstanding almost a $1.6 million loss between the pilot and the cessation fund. Again, that's our biggest problem. Overall budget is fine. If we get a new pilot, we'll be in very good shape for the foreseeable future until the property gets redeveloped, and then we can be actually a survivor on our own without depending on another pilot. So that's the highlight. Please take a look at the presentation. Also on the website is the presentation as well as my budget message. I tried to put everything in charts and in words so that way you can read the detail behind it as well. I try to give as much information to the public as much as possible. And I do want to take the opportunity to say all the department heads are here. I want to thank them here since they're here. They've been fantastic to work with. They actually kept a very tight budget, understanding the impact to our taxpayers. They take this very seriously as well, but at the same time, they want to make sure the services are provided to our residents, to the Class A services they're expected to have. So it's a bare bones budget again. I try to increase the revenues as I could for mortgage taxes, sales tax, based on the auditor's statements today, but I couldn't increase the level that they are because if it then drops off, then we have a deficit. So I try to be a conservative budget. Hopefully we break a little even or make a little bit of surplus every year, and then they offset any increases in the future. So that's my quick little summary. I'm happy to answer any questions of the board or the public, and hopefully the board adopts this on the 25th. The only decision they have to make is, do they want to do the additional 6% at this point to get it up to 8%, and hopefully we don't have to face that next year if we get a new pilot with HOTEC. So that's the biggest decision that the board has to make. Separate topic, water. We discussed it last meeting. I worked very closely with Trustee Laker. I know people have complained about the water bills. To hopefully offset that, as we discussed in prior meetings, is we needed to find out where, again, going back to HOTEC, where the actual water consumption is for HOTEC. Now we have a handle on that. Those meters I've discussed multiple times have been fixed. Now we have a handle on how much they actually are using and how much we're buying. So my other recommendation to the board is we're going to decrease the resident rate from $9 at the first scale to $8. And that's when most people are going to fit in. And also I'm recommending going from a 6 month bill to a 3 month bill. Like if you look at a tax rate, that will be less consumption in 3 months versus 6 months. So hopefully they'll keep the resident at a lower rate as well. And then I'm also trying to do an industrial rate, a little higher rate to actually have them subsidize a little bit of everybody else's tax bill. So water bill, sorry. So I'm recommending that as well. So those are two decisions that the board has to make. Cindy and Sharon, who actually are here as they are all the time, they do the billing. They're willing to take the additional work to get those bills out on a quarterly basis. They are very, very concerned about the village and want to make sure they want to take care of the residents as much as possible. And we want to hear people say, okay, my water bill went down, now it went up again. So hopefully they'll residents will be happy about that as well. So I'll try to cover all the bases. I explained that in my budget message as well. So please, I'm available anytime, even after tonight. Anybody wants to call me, please call me. Send me an email. I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk about the budget. I know how important this is to the residents. I pay taxes as well. And I want to make sure that I'm heard as a taxpayer. So please feel free to call me anytime. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we used to do a quarterly water bill and then we switched over to the 6 months. So we're just gonna go back to where we were. And my question, you mentioned industrial, is it a different rate for industrial?
Yes.
Or commercial, which,
Well, it's more commercial. It's gonna be the way it was right now, just to give you an example, we have some commercial users that was being billed on a monthly basis. So therefore, they were getting a break, to be honest with you, because their consumption was less. So everybody's gonna be quarterly basis from now, so that way everybody be on the same billing cycle. And the consumption of the industrial will go up a little bit. They'll pay a little bit more. The rate will also be a little higher than the residence rates. City of Peekskill does the same thing. We are industrial user for the city of Peekskill, so we actually pay a higher rate than the residents. So it's only fair that we do the same kind of system for our billing process as well.
I want to leave the 6% discussion. We'll discuss
Yeah,
it
no
tonight,
problem.
but I just had some questions because I have some thoughts on the 6% also.
Of course.
So I want to go to page 20. And I'm seeing
What department are you looking at?
administrator. No,
Okay.
that one's no, that was okay. No, I'm seeing under 0.457, the consultants or our
What's the-
actual expended is 623.
Sorry, what department are you looking at there?
I am looking at, I think consultants.
It's
We're
just,
gonna keep that at 5,000.
just a 4-digit number to the
There's
left.
only two. That's a point.
I'm sorry.
0.461, I think.
0.461.
20.
That's a three. Page 20.
Oh, 1230.
Yeah, no, I'm looking down here. Yeah. Oh, you wanted the one up there?
Yeah, I just want to see
Oh,
what pay, because I have a separate, I'm looking at Excel spreadsheet, so in case you guys want to make any changes,
Okay,
I can actually modify it here at the same time and tell you what the tax rate changes are gonna be.
all right, that
Okay,
is.
so 1230.
Dev. Professional. And you want to keep,
Okay, go ahead.
so all the billing hasn't come in yet because the actual extended through March was 623.
Correct.
On the next page. You're looking at A 1320.4. Last year's budget was 42,000.
That's the auditors,
That's
yes.
the auditor, you're upping it to 48,000.
Correct, yes.
For the rate.
It's just a rate, and also they actually help us with AUD. They're actually doing a little bit more review of our processes and internal controls as well.
That's why I'm asking some of these questions. 'Cause
Absolutely.
There's differences compared to what was budgeted in the prior
Absolutely.
year plus actual expended.
Yep.
So under treasurer personnel services, A 1325.1, last year's budget was 107. You have tentative is 196.
That's the additional employee in that department that we spoke about.
Okay, that's there.
Mhm.
Next,
Just, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, sure.
Just to, kind of go along with that, the line, 2 lines down from that, there's a part-time position down there,
Yes,
that's what we.
yes, yes.
Remains as well.
Temporarily, because I would assume it needs a couple of months or a year worth of training to actually take over. That would be probably removed in the 6 months into the year or something like that. And I don't know when that person will be hired. So it's just a transition period for a couple of months.
No, that's why we're on the page.
Mhm.
1325.400. That was budgeted last year at 91,000. You have tentative of 105,500.
If you look at our line items below that, so for example, other expenses were 59,000. So I upped that a little bit based on the actuals. You see 59,000?
Yeah.
So I'm actually matching the actuals.
Okay. Okay. All right, that one came in. It was just things that jumped out at me.
Yep.
That's what I'm doing here.
And just to make everybody understand too, besides what you're doing here, in my budget message, anything 5,000 more or less is also try to give a little bit of
Yeah,
explanation
I
as well.
did look at that,
Okay,
but you know,
perfect.
while, as I'm looking at these lines, that's one thing, I understand what you're saying, but to actually you know,
Yep.
be at that line.
Mhm.
So the total financial, last year budget, it was 269,000, and the tentative is 380, 685. The difference in that, because you're looking at over 100,000 more, 110,000 more.
What line item are you looking at?
We are looking at total financial, so if you look at assessment.
Oh, you're looking at everything, at the,
Yeah, the total financial, so there's an increase there of like $110,000 from what was budgeted last
Some of
year.
the change to the contractual we just talked about, and then
Okay.
plus the new employee.
Yeah, what
Okay,
is that?
So that's the grand total of everything.
Okay,
so
yeah.
budgeted, and then this is what the proposed tentative
Mhm.
budget is. So
Yes.
it's big
Big
difference.
difference,
Yeah, the majority of that was the new employee plus the looking at the actuals versus what was budgeted. Some line items will be over expended, so I actually increased those lines to actually meet the actuals.
Right, and then right underneath that, there's also an increase for personnel services for clerk. So from 19,000 from last year to 26,500, so that's A 1410-100. I just like.
So
there's certain
19,000
things
to 26.
that- Yeah,
to
there's certain things that
26,000?
just jumped out at me that.
Is
there's
that
significant.
the addition for the court clerk? That
That's-
she requested?
That's-
No, this is this is the breakup between Sharon, Cindy, and the new person.
Okay,
Okay.
because yeah, you
Yes.
separate that. Okay.
Correct.
All right,
There's a proration of everybody's salary. Yes.
okay, all right. Yeah, it doesn't, you know what I mean? You have to actually look at these lines to understand.
Yep.
The next is building services. This might be another prorated, 1620-102 part-time. I see the budgeted last year was 4,000. The tentative budget is 35,000. So that's
That's a proration of the part-time employees, because I moved them from the personal service 100 to that line, so you can see the 100 is zero.
okay.
Mhm.
Good. Thank you.
Of course.
Like I said, just some things that just jumped out. And under wastewater collection. A 8120 point,
812, let me get there first.
yeah. Page 46.
Yeah, I don't have pages on this one. This is my spreadsheet. 8120?
8120, yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm looking at 0.460 other expenditures. Last year budgeted 21,300. And then it's 16,000 you have in the tentative.
I'm sorry, give me that line item. 8120 or 8130?
8120.
8120, 460?
460. This one went down,
Yeah,
but then you could see actual expenditures. So it was budgeted last year, that line, 21,000. The actual expended right now is 23,000.
yes, I knocked it down to 16, yes.
And I don't even know what other expenditures are.
Yeah, I think those were because there was some repairs that had to be done. So I went back to what the history was, $14,000. It was 14, 14, and 6. So we had a one-time increase due to some repairs. So I went back to the historical history of it. That hopefully those repairs are done, we don't have to do them again.
Yeah, yeah. And the debt service, of course, that was increased. There was one thing I had.
Yeah.
Special. Now, of course, you know, I won't be able to find it because I'm looking
Should
for
put
it.
little tabs on the side too.
You know, I did. I put some little stuff on the side here. All right, for now, that's what I have. It's just, you know, when you get these reports, it doesn't always spell out exactly what it is, and that's why I'm asking that.
Sure, of course.
Okay. All right, hopefully I find it. Do any other board members have any questions?
On the total, just on the total parks maintenance, there's, on page,
Just give me the line, the department and line items. Easier for me to find it that way. The department would be the 4-digit code and then point
is it
whatever.
this A7110?
7110. Okay, give me a
And that's
second.
the point, .465, it looks like we've got
Lens Cove,
Lens
yes.
Cove 14.4.
Yeah, I increased that. I've been talking to Scott about doing some major repairs over there. He's replacing the stairs. Some of the benches are in really deteriorated shape, so the idea is to upgrade the park and make it better than what it is right now. In fact, they're working on the pool today, you saw the steps that were replaced at the park. They're working at the pool right now. They're going back to the park. And then some benches are really degraded that we're talking about getting fixed up.
Okay, and my other question is in relation to overall insurance, is it broken out by department?
No, that's
So
in the,
where is
that's,
that?
that's in
that
that's 1910. Give you the exact line number. It's 1910-410 on the special items. It's $165,000. So it's almost in the beginning, 1910-465. It's $165,000 for everything. That's including cybersecurity, general liability, automotive. The only thing that's not in there is workers' comp. Workers' comp is in personal services benefits.
So 165, and then what's the workers' comp?
Workers' comp will be in the 9,000 accounts. That's almost at the end with benefits. I'll tell you, give you the account number for that one. It is workers' comp is 9040.803, and that's 170,000. And there's all your benefits, health insurance, retirement, and the 9,000 accounts, you see it, all the benefits are in there.
When's the last time we went out to bid on the insurance?
Broker, we go out to bid every year and we try to go get prices for different, Zurich, whatever the municipal companies are. And they do a bid and get offers in from the insurance companies to do that. Yes. The most difficult part this year was cybersecurity. A lot of them dropped off for government, but based on what's going on, we only gave it to get one quote, and we had a pretty big increase in that one. And I checked around; everybody had the same issue. Some people couldn't even get cybersecurity insurance. Everything else was fine. The cybersecurity was the biggest problem.
Who else?
Go ahead.
Steve, you have something?
Sure. Just going back to 1620,
1620. Let me get that.
101.
1620.
I'm sorry, we're going through this and the audience doesn't
Yep, 16.
know. I apologize. They don't
Yeah,
realize
16,
what
yep,
we're-
1621. Yes.
The actual expended so far this year is almost double the budgeted amount. Do you know why that is?
Yeah, I got to check with Cindy on that one. It might be, maybe it was coded to the wrong line, but really, I don't think it was coded wrong. There's no overtime in that. Good catch, though. That's good.
No problem. What exactly is shade trees and why do we keep budgeting for that?
Shade tree trees. If we have to take out a tree for some reason,
There's never an expense that
oh, well, there have been. The problem is it's been coded to highway department by mistake. So yeah. So every time there's a tree on the village right away, you have to take down, or something happens, or our guys have to go out to do something. The majority of the time, the resident have to take care of it. But if there's a tree on Lens Cove and we have to hire somebody to do that, then we have to pay for that.
Just one more, 8320,
8320.
400,
Okay, let me get there.
it's the source of water.
8320, 8320. And that's in the waterfront? Yeah, okay, let me get to the waterfront. Yes,
So that is extremely low.
correct. And I actually worked with George. And George, you can help me with this one.
Pages. 55.
And that's a number that we looked at the historical over, especially last year. And again, what's good about that is a balance out. So if that goes up, our revenue will go up at the same time. So is this year it's going to be another guess year because we are doing the new rate structure. And we actually not got all the water readings that we got from them, and the consumption for Holtec went down substantially. That was one of our biggest users. The sheet rock is going up a little bit, but not as much as Holtec was lost. So again, the good news is I'm not too concerned about that because if we buy more water, we're actually gonna get the revenue at the same time. So we're hopefully it'll be balanced out between the two.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Anybody else? I found out what I was looking for.
Okay.
That's all. So page 18, general government support. And yeah, there's no number. It's page 18.
So you're looking at a chart. Are you looking at a chart?
No, I'm looking above the chart.
Okay, so
So, yeah, general government support. So the budget for 22-23 for, what was it, executive? Yeah, executive or financial. So last year, the budget was 269,088, and then you have here 380. I just don't know what that means, financial, and you know, why there's such an increase.
Probably one.
Do you think that's, so here,
Or,
you see?
yeah, that's the new employee salary increases.
Okay, all right, that goes there. And then also, there's decrease in the shared services. Last year's budget was 309, then it went down to 291 for the tentative budget. But in the 22-23 budget, you have special items. And that was 705,000. And for this year's budget, we're looking at 633,000. What are special items?
Oh, the special items is insurance, municipal dues, adjustment and claims, property taxes, MTA taxes, and contingency.
Okay, all right. So I saw a huge difference in that.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why I asked these questions, because
Yeah,
special items, what are,
The special items is the grand total of all the other departments above that. So you have to look at each department individually to make up that total.
okay,
Correct.
all right. All right, if we don't have any other comments, and I will let the audience speak yet, but I want to jump into, you know what? I'm so sorry. Stephanie and George,
you
don't
can
have to
talk.
be here through the budget. I apologize for not letting
Good
you
night.
go sooner.
Did I?
I know this is exciting.
George, you gotta-
but-
I know, right?
I'm sorry.
George, thank you. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yes,
night.
okay. But you did find it interesting, right?
Yeah, it's, you guys do a lot of hard work and you look at everything very closely. It's
But before George, I want to thank George, working on the water with me and Steve on that. So that he's been a great help with that as well. Mhm.
Yeah.
Take care. You're welcome.
All right, George, take care. Thank you, Steph.
Have a good night, Steph.
Just gonna give them a few minutes to get out. Because what I'd like to talk about, all right. Bye, Steph. Thank you.
Goodbye, have a good
Good
night.
night. Safe trip home.
Thank you.
So Marcus had mentioned about a potential 6% increase. I'm looking at analysis of additional 6% increase to loss of pilot. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I know I had mentioned before, Nick Zachary had brought this up years ago when we faced the loss of the pilot with Entergy. And we tried to do a tax stabilization and something similar to this, but my concern with this 6%, Marcus, is that you're in your 2026, 2027 is when the new pilot would be, we're in 2023, 2024, and the new pilot would have to be done before then, the agreement. But you're showing no income at all, no revenue at all for the pilot. So this is super worst case scenario that they tell us to go play in traffic or something. But the only thing I'd rather not do that, honestly, because we do have legislation that backs up the taxation of spent fuel costs. I know what you're saying. I'm basically a conservative when it comes to financial things, but to have a zero amount there, this is like they don't pay anything at all. And, you know, what the projections are. With the cessation fund, yeah, that's definitely going away. We had our 7 years and then in 2028, 2029, there's no more cessation fund money. So I don't know. I don't want to overtax people, but then again, I don't want to slam people with a 30% tax increase either. So I'm very torn on this.
Is the board decision.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
yeah,
but I'm
absolutely.
giving you the
Again,
point of view.
Yeah, and you're gonna be losing in 24, 25, you'll be losing 116,000.
Mhm.
25, 26, you're gonna be losing 336,000. And in the year of 26, 27, when you lose the pilot is $1.1 million. So absolutely, as I said, if you get a pilot, it's great. If the problem is if you don't get a pilot, that 6%, it'll be 12 or 13%. So it's whatever the board wants to do.
But what I'm saying is with that legislation that we have for the spent fuel cast, it's going to be difficult for Holtec not to give us some type of a pilot, because when we did that legislation and we figured it out, it came in about 1.2 for the spent fuel cast, because that was the basis of that whole legislation.
And to be totally transparent, that legislation's out there and the town didn't reach an agreement. And they're gonna, as far as I know,
The town has other issues.
correct. But
There's
that
many
legislation
other
is there.
issues going involved with
Mhm.
that, so. But I'm seeing on the side here, 25, 26, you're showing a difference, a positive, of
Mhm.
389,000.
Mhm.
So it's when there's no money put in for the pilot at all, that's when we're seeing.
No, the 300,000 spreadsheet is assuming the 260 to 428 and the 386. So that's with the 6% on that spreadsheet. So
Oh,
that
on this
200, that
spreadsheet.
$264,000 that we're looking at that spreadsheet.
No.
When you
Oh,
look
yeah,
at-
I'm
we
looking
look
up at the top here,
Yeah,
but that's, you have already included the 6%
That
on
6% is in there. This spreadsheet you're looking at right now is just the 6%.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with the taxes as is right now. So that's the
So
sliding
that would
scale.
be adding that up to 264, the 428, so to
Correct.
compensate in
Just
26.
correct. Whatever the board wants to do.
I mean,
it's
we
fine.
have to, we have to also talk about, we had $200,000 from Holtec last year with the agreement, and it came in after our budget. So that's part of the 500,000 that we have extra in our fund balance.
That's correct. And that's the other thing the board,
Yeah, because we settled with Holtec after
Right.
the May 1st deadline, so that's part of the.
correct. So
500,000.
going back to the fund balance, we're above the 15%. What about $489,000 over the 15% fund balance that we've been talking about?
Mhm.
And as we discussed with the department heads here, is we're gonna have to talk about capital projects. So again, we have a limited amount of money. So the question is, going to your point, do you want to use that money to offset the possible loss? Or do you use that money to pay for capital projects? Again, it's a board decision.
Yep.
It's only a certain amount of money. So the idea is hopefully we'll have a workshop in June, July, August, talk about capital projects. And then at that point, the board can decide how they're going to meet the requirements that we need for the departments for capital projects, which besides roads were covered, truck repairs, maintenance of buildings, water and sewer projects. So just want to throw that out there as well.
Could you also send out to us so that we're figuring this out, what the potential capital projects are, or
Okay,
potential, I know.
I was saying you have 5-year
Equipment,
capital project.
yeah.
That's absolutely. Yep.
Equipment and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
So we can get a look ahead of time before that. All right, those are my thoughts. Anyone else have any thoughts before I put it out to the audience? We're good for now?
I'm good.
Okay.
Marcus, it seems like you really protected yourself here, this budget.
I got to protect the village. That's what I'm trying
I
to
mean,
do.
you protected the village here, and your scope is long
Yes.
and protected.
Yeah.
Okay. I can appreciate that. You're looking out for the best of the village.
Thank you.
Any comments from the audience?
Eileen, do you want to say
No,
something
we
as well?
have,
Michael.
Mike
Yep,
coming up.
perfect.
No, you're here.
No,
She's got.
you beat her. You beat her to it.
Michael Wayne's 202 First Street. Marcus, there was a decrease in the police by roughly $95,000. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that was due to a temporary hiring of a police officer that police officer replaced another police officer.
So now that money was in last year's budget?
It was done at the last minute. It was it was like 80-something thousand dollars. It was put into the budget originally. It was probably $83,000 that was put into the budget at the last minute to cover, I don't want to be personnel stuff. But there was a police officer that was injured, and knowing that he might retire, the idea was to hire somebody so that person could be trained and fill that position when that person leaves.
When that person left.
When that person.
So as a supporter of the police, and a taxpayer, I think you should leave that money in there and maybe consider hiring another police officer.
The taxpayer is up to you. Yes.
Just as a supporter of the police,
Mhm.
Chief Farrell's doing a great job
Mhm.
with his department, and I think if there's money there, I think it should be allotted to the police department.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mike.
Marcus, if we did add another officer, what does that look like, the tax impact for residents?
That will be a 6.25% increase by itself without the 6%. And with the 6%, it'll be 12.62.
Okay,
Hello. Well, thanks. I just wanted to, first, I want to thank everybody. This is a lot of work. And I appreciate everything, Marcus and, Cindy, I asked about it. So I appreciate it. I did want to just, touch base, kind of, so I guess I just want a consideration, thrown out there. I know Marcus mentioned the percentage. I mean, I'm looking at it a little different. It's less than a 1% increase. But that's, again, I'm not a budget expert like him. But I just wanted to want you guys to consider us continuing with the 6th officer. Over the last 6 years, over 50% of that time we've had this 6th officer. It's been needed. Every time we have to hire somebody, the previous chiefs have expressed the same concerns. And I want you guys to just consider it. Our officers are working, when somebody's out, they're working 12, 16-hour tours, 10 consecutive days in a row or more. We have to adjust on, investigations and put things on the back burner for priorities. And I just want you guys to understand that, I'm just looking to, one, protect the village better. I have that obligation to just ask for. And 2 is, protect the officers. Being overworked is, and, is a health detriment and a safety concern. I know, the 21st century on policing, the Department of Justice, one of their main pillars is the healthiness and safety of officers and how we have to staff properly and how we have to adjust shifts properly. With us growing, we haven't grown the police department over 20 years. With our community growing, with new projects on the horizon, we should be a step ahead and prepared for those things. Because that's going to be an increase in our services and in our body. This everything that's growing and we're handling now, we have an increased call volume. People need police services for all sorts of things now. It's not just your typical, crime-based policing anymore. And it's all getting handled by one officer and at any given time. And we're not getting the backups that we need anymore because, every department's kind of in the same situation where they need an increase in staffing. And they have more to do and more call volume themselves. So that's just a concern of mine. So I just wanted you guys to just take it into consideration, at least have a discussion with it. I understand wholeheartedly where we're at in the village. But I just feel like I have a responsibility to ask for the consideration, protect these residents appropriately, and to keep up the safety of the officers and their well-being, and take some liability precautions for the village as well. So thanks for the time. Do you have any questions? Let me know.
Yeah, I do, Shane.
Yeah.
How does there's such a big difference in the percentage between you and Marcus? Where did you come up with your percentage and Marcus comes up with his?
So I just kept the budget as is. I didn't take the 95,000 away.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept it as is, and I just added the extra officer. We have that sixth officer from last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just made the difference of adding the officer in and made big adjustments in the overtime, because we're gonna slice off overtime. Bearing no major injuries again and no major sickness. We had a sickness too as well. These things do continuously come up. But right now, I'm operating at 3 officers. I have an officer that's out and I have an officer on vacation. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right now, I'm operating 3 officers.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine? Just think about it. You like working, and they're not just working in day tours. They're working overnight, and they have to stay and work the day. Then they get 4 hours of sleep and have to come back. So these are just things I want you guys to just consider. I know it's just a consideration I'm asking for. I totally understand where you're at. I've taken a deep dive into it, Marcus, so I get it. But I just have to feel it's my obligation, for the residents, for my members, of these apartments, to just ask this consideration.
So I get where you're coming, but you're speaking to the choir. We all work long days, long hours. We speak, we stay away from our families. But one thing I will tell you, to be completely transparent here, I had a conversation with Chief today because I wanted to know more about this, and I needed to know more about it because this is important for our community. This is along with the sewage treatment plan and Entergy, this is an asset that we have as well. That is important for us. And I think a lot of people feel comfortable moving into this area knowing that there is their own PD. So I can say I work 1,000,000 hours too. I don't see my kids, but I don't go to work with a vest and a gun, like I told you, which you need to be stabilized mentally. And, maybe hiring another officer. Last night I was in here, I wasn't for it, but now that, I think about it, the integrity of a person holding a gun, chasing an individual in a car that the taxpayers pay for. It's got to be taken into consideration, and I thank you for coming here and requesting that. And yes, we will consider it. I think that it's important. It's imperative to take into consideration the job and the status of the individual at the job and their actual integrity. So I'm totally into consideration for it.
When is that other officer gonna be back? That was our.
He's on the 21st. Yes, he's progressed. It's just unfortunately we don't have that type of duty. So, but she wouldn't help us anyway.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
we would still be the same goal.
And Chief, do you have, or maybe Marcus does, what your budget request is this year in comparison to last year, and let's say the last 3 years? The budgeted amount for the police department is what?
With or without the officer?
With
With the officer? I'll take it. For the department. Now, this is without benefits, the way I have to break up the benefits as well. Sorry, I just gotta get to that one page.
And Shane, one other question while he's looking that up. The $107,000 overtime item that's in the budget for this year, you would see that going down to approximately.
I'm gonna be conservative. I'm just I'm conservative a little bit because I would want to make sure.
Because obviously that's.
But I would
way
say, I would say, 70,000. To be conservative, I'm expecting more, bearing there's no, major incident where I use some officers. But with the extra officer, I wouldn't have that issue. We would just fall right back into a normal routine.
So let's talk about that too. So, I still have the 107. So I have the new officer in my first year right now. So, what would you bring that down so I can actually
Just say 70.
So 70? Okay, that way I can plug that number in and see what the difference would be.
And then you'd save on some training time that, there'd be a little bit other savings as well.
So going down to 70, the increase for the base will be 5.08 now.
No, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm not talking percentages.
Okay.
What's the total dollar amount for the police department?
Okay,
expected?
so salaries. I don't have the benefits broken up, because I have to break up the benefits. I can tell you the retirement, but it's 1 million with the changes we're talking about with the officer and knocking out the overtime to 70,000, $1,064,595,000. And I'll give you the benefits, I have detail for the benefits. I have to add the benefits.
I believe would just be,
I'm-
we're already budgeted from Sergeant Palmietto. So it wouldn't be a change, we would just keep them.
What was the dollar number for last year's budget?
Hold on a second. The adopted budget from last year.
If you have it, I mean.
No, I got it.
Crazy.
Is that the 995?
It's 1,084,000.
1,084,000, correct.
So this would be a decrease of 20,000.
Correct, from the adopted budget from prior year, yeah.
That's, no, the amended budget was 1.1.
Yes, that was the amended with the new.
With the new officer.
Correct,
But
correct,
taking out that new officer, it's still a 20% decrease.
correct,
Chief's requested an additional officer.
correct, correct.
$20,000.
20,000.
Yeah.
And remember that, like I said, the benefits were already budgeted for last year for Sergeant Palmietto who retired. We would just keep those, just with the family plan and making adjustments, obviously. And his retirement, we no longer pay, and that would actually be a savings of probably about $17,000. For a new officer, I think it's probably roughly around 40. If she was paying about, or 30, I'm sorry, roughly around 30,000, 35. If he was paying, I think we were paying about 50 for him. So there would be some savings in the retirement as well.
And Chief, can you provide any, explain some of the other benefits that an additional officer would allow for the village as far as patrol and?
Yeah, I mean, it would be an improved visibility of presence, just presence alone deters crime. And that's why we're so successful. We do have a police department here. And then that's just vital to us. We would have faster response times. We would have, a lot more times now, we would have an extra officer available. And they would want to be over here, want to be here, so the response time would be quicker. Not that we can really do what we already do, but we'd have more times to be on focused patrols. I mean, we do get a lot of, focused complaints on whether it's speeding, or nuisances, and we can't just really focus on this, because we have to attend to the whole village and everything else. So we'd be able to focus our patrols. We would have an increase in productivity because we would have more members doing work. We would enable our expansion of our community related events. I really haven't gotten to dive into that. That's a passion of mine. I really love to do it. I just, I'm kind of, when this happens, being short, I'm kind of doing multiple of these jobs at once. But this would allow for that expansion to the community to reach out. It would allow for us to spend the additional necessary times on investigations. Like I said, now we're shorthanded. We have to put priorities first. Some of these investigations, we have time, but as time moves on, we lose things. So it gets very complicated. So we would have that time, and we would be able to serve these victims properly. And they would get closure faster. It would be a reduced overtime cost. The proactive policing, so we can actually, instead of having to be available and kind of react to things, we can actually go out there and be proactive. The benefits are too that newer officer, younger, or tier 6 officers, they do pay into the benefits, so it's a small saving. And they pay into the retirement as well. So it's another saving.
You read my mind, Shane. I was thinking about our future negotiations.
Yeah.
And where they would fall.
Yeah, and then, for us personally, it's just higher morale. officers, we can get officers specialized in some things that we really need. Some better trainings, for investigational purposes or vehicle and traffic, stuff like that. Just a sheer increase in officer safety. Increasing department, ability to handle more complex situations and more calls. Having two officers versus one on the road at some points, we can handle things just a lot easier. Like I said, we don't get the response. Not anybody's fault. They just are the same boat as we are. There's more specialization, increased diversification of skills, ideas, and enforcement styles, increased training opportunities. Again, that's one of the big things that's in a lawsuit. Lack of training is the first thing that gets filed into the lawsuit. So the more training we have, the better we are. And just really better physical, mental, and family health. And you guys all know that I'm a big proponent of that as well. So those are some of the things that I got it down tonight for
So if there was another officer, there's only one, when would that officer be on duty? During the day?
No, again, I'd come up with a plan. It would probably be strategic. When's needed, when we have our higher call volume times, situational. But obviously we would have to kind of set a fixed type schedule, but more if it would be for the reason why I'm explaining safety considerations. Providing more service for the building.
Do we currently have a DARE officer? We don't, right?
No, we don't have a DARE. We have a community resource officer and a juvenile officer.
Is that with the county or who does that now? The county or?
DARE?
Well, the community officer?
No, that is Officer Ray.
Oh, all right. I'm thinking with the high school. I'm thinking that we're using that.
That's
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, that's they do. The county does.
Okay. All right, we good?
One thing, I hear everything you're saying, I understand it all, but my only problem really is I don't understand what the discrepancy between what Marcus has and you have as far as the tech.
I can explain. I can explain. Let me explain it.
A huge difference in what.
Let me explain. The police chief was looking at a net amount going from the original budget that was adopted with the new officer for the temporary basis, and then adding on top of that, the new officer. I went from that part-time 90,000 not being eliminated. So we went from 0 to 200,000 versus 90 to 200,000, 200,000 in salary and benefits. That's the major difference.
Okay, so how much more of a difference would that be in the budget?
On
The way that,
the new numbers with the overtime reduced, it'll be instead of 1.9 whatever we talked originally, it'll be 5.08.
Well, again, the benefits are already there. The retirement's already there. We're just now keeping it, decreasing a little bit because it's going to be different. So we won't need to add that to the increase. That's already in our last year budget last year budget technically. So it would really just be the difference of the officer. Instead of the 6 months or whatever we had the budget for last time, 6 months or whatever. Still. If I'm correct.
You always give us a percentage, a dollar amount that increases the budget by 1%.
Yeah, so the 5.8%, going to 5.8% would go to $137 for a year, so 1143.
No, but every dollar that the budget
It's
increases.
about $40,000.
$40,000.
It's a 1%.
1%.
That's correct. It's a low number.
It's about a 2.5% increase.
Mhm.
If it's 200,000. Am I missing something? If it's
You're going from net 0
right,
to the 100,
to
with the salary and
200,000.
benefits is 200, not, that's what
But
we got,
didn't you
we got,
take that money out, that 6 month? money
Yes,
that we
that's
had
correct.
Last year,
That's
so it
correct.
would be, to add that in, it would be 200,000.
that's correct. That's, so
Roughly.
we're gonna go to net zero, salary and benefits for the other officer taken out, going from 0 to a brand new officer with salary and benefits.
So that's 5%.
Is 1.92, he took away the overtime as well, so,
Oh, okay.
so
Oh,
we,
you're taking out the 70,000.
correct.
Okay, I got it.
So that's why it's not
Correct.
100% the way you're looking at it, correct? So the new number is
I
5.
was doing simple math.
Correct. The new number will be 5.08.
I mean, just looking round numbers, I've always known, before sitting on the board, I was always told police budget is about $1 million. That was just always a
No,
easy number.
no, that was just before this, that was actually without the benefits. Because with the benefits. Benefits is about. Give you the total benefits here. Benefits. It's about, without the overtime benefits, is about $679,000 in benefits.
$679,000.
For the benefits. That's correct. For the entire, for all the officers, and that would be including the new officer.
I just well, explains it a little bit better, but I mean, the money's already budgeted for it. I mean, if we take it out and start from 0, yeah, but
That's correct.
the benefits are already here.
Right.
Retirement is already here. There's no change. There's actually a savings. It's just adding the difference on the officer, the savings on overtime, savings probably will be some training. I mean, there will be some other little savings too as well. For that, but then, obviously there'll be some contractual.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, if the board was to go along with this, then Shane will have more control and then determine and come back and report it. I mean, I didn't reduce any training, so if he reduces training, then I'll be a benefit at the end. So he
Yeah,
can,
it would be minor, but.
yeah, he can work that out and again, this will be a year that we can then determine what next year's budget is going to be based on a new officer. So that can be figured out during the year. Correct.
Thanks, Shane. All right,
Thanks,
thank
Shane.
you.
Thanks, Shane.
Eileen,
Hi, Eileen.
let me get Eileen to
Eileen's
speak.
back.
She's been very patient.
Yes, she-
Okay, Eileen, you can speak.
Okay, thank you. Teresa, I have a question, regarding, if Holtec is forced to put tanks in because of Riverkeeper and Kathy Hochul and Parkham and whoever else is involved in that.
Anti-nuclear agendas, yeah.
If they're forced to put that in, how do you think that's going to play with the new pilot?
That's not taxable.
Yeah, it's not, so if you're asking if those water tanks are taxable, I don't believe they are.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm not
But you're
asking that.
asking how the pilot would look if, perhaps they'd have to shut down.
How
would they Yeah, but if they had to shut down also because they can't, take the spent fuel pool out.
Correct.
And now it's in the water tanks and delays the project and yeah, I know where you're going. The only thing is,
I'm just,
yeah. uh-huh.
no, I was just curious about that because you've got the cast, which that is going to be incorporated into that pilot. But if for some odd reason, just like we didn't think Entergy was going to close at this time, and it was, we've got politicians that are really looking, along with Riverkeeper, to force them into a situation like this. So I'm just curious. I know it's hypothetical again, but it's a very feasible possibility that they could be forced to do this. And I just wondered if you had any idea how they would work a pilot or how they would feel about a pilot, knowing that they've got to stop, start, and then change things up. And how would that affect our budget going forward? Because that's in 2026, 27.
Yeah, any delay on, I believe in decommissioning would definitely affect the pilot, would Us,
Absolutely.
the town, the school,
Mm-hmm.
Time is
Everybody.
money, Eileen.
Oh,
right?
I know I realize it's going to affect everybody. What I'm saying is that, when you look at putting that 6% in, these are all, like I said, hypotheticals. But I don't trust the politicians to do the right thing. That's the only thing I'm saying. Call it conspiracy theory, call it whatever you want.
No,
I
it's a
just
valid concern.
don't trust them,
Yeah, it's a valid concern. huh?
be surprised what they do for a vote.
Well, I know that. So that was really what I wanted to know about that, the pilot and how we look at whether we add the 6% on, or could we add a little less on? Or, this is like a fantasy. It's surreal.
It's unknown waters, Eileen, right? So, I mean, you bring up very valid points, so.
Since 2017, it's been uncharted waters.
Right, I know.
But the only thing, I'm going on the legislation that was passed in New York State. That with the spent fuel cast, because that gives us some. I don't want to say backbone, but it gives us some,
Negotiation.
yeah, I mean, there'll be negotiations, but, I'm just hoping now they're not gonna go into a safe store. They didn't have to, if Entergy kept the property, they were gonna go into a safe store situation, which would have given 60 years to do the decommissioning.
Right.
Holtec came along, they said they could do the decommissioning faster. We were all like, great, not faster that it's unsafer, but faster than Entergy leaving it for 60 years and doing the decommissioning years later. So I don't know with what's going on, honestly, where that's going to end up. We all know the NRC is in control of the radioactive material and also it going into the river. Then when you have the DEC with the speedies permits, you have the EPA that's already agreed to that. There's a lot going on right now. There's going to be an article in the Journal News tomorrow about this. I understand the article really twisted the anti-nuclear people, so they've are a little bit in a tizzy right now with the article. But anyhow, I do understand what you're saying, but the reason why we went after that legislation too is because it's basically with the spent fuel, it's considered real property.
I
That's
got
what the legislation is all about. So I think if we had to go into a tax cert situation, we have a good basis, legal basis going in. And I don't want to have to tell these residents another couple of years from now, oh, by the way, there's a 30% tax increase. We've been there. It's happened. It hurts. It really hurts.
I know. All right. My last question is Marcus or the board and Teresa. The contract for the police department has not been resolved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let's hypothetically again say that this is resolved in this 23-24 year. What would we owe back to the cops in retro pay? Anything?
Yes, it depends what the agreement says. So go back to the beginning of the contract.
Okay, so if it goes back to the beginning of the contract, do we have the funds to be able to pay that, or how would we pay that out of this budget?
It's taken care of.
Okay. All
We're
right.
in a negotiation, Eileen. We can't put all our cards on the table right now.
No. I don't mean it that way. I was just, I'm just thinking, this is a number of years and it all adds up. So I just wanted to know how that played in with the budget. That's all.
Correct. It adds up and it adds up and compounds every year as well. Yeah. So we have a certain amount and hopefully we stay within that amount.
Okay. All right. That's all I want to know. Thank you very much.
No, thank you,
Thanks,
Eileen.
Eileen.
Yeah, these are challenging times, since the announcement of the closure. They're challenging times and tough decisions have to be made sometimes. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on the budget? I mean, we are going to keep it open, so you will be able to comment on the 25th again. I do want to say, Scoot, thank you so much. The stairs that the guys did, are really great. And I'm glad you're gonna be doing around the pool because the stairs going up to the pool are in tough shape. So, thank you.
I just want to say, the village of Croton actually came today and helped us with some heavy duty equipment.
Good.
They're a good neighbor.
Yes, they are.
The
Yeah.
town, they didn't have the available time to give it to us, but the village did. So I
Oh,
want to thank the
nice.
village publicly for providing this, their driver and the equipment to actually to do the work.
So I know we have an IMA with
Scott,
with the
right?
town. Yeah, Scott, please. We have an IMA with the town. We don't have an IMA with Croton. They were just kind enough. That's very nice.
Mhm.
That's-
So we have, I mean, we're all the,
It's two, okay.
it's all the villages,
Yeah. I
the
didn't
two
know it was
villages,
a
yeah.
Special IMA
Yeah.
with,
It
okay.
include everybody, right?
Wonderful. Hi, Scoop.
Hi, yes.
Yeah.
What did you want?
What happened today?
Oh,
What happened?
well, yeah, so we had Proton came and they brought, an excavator and Joe Kempner.
Oh, okay.
Her son.
And
Maybe
we
son.
tore out two sets of stairs at the pool, one that goes from the parking lot up the driveway and one from the driveway that goes up the pool house. And while we have them here, we also went over Les Cove and tore out the other two set of stairs that I haven't done yet. The one that goes from the parking lot down towards the handicap spots. And then there's another set of stairs that was in the back heading out towards the point that we also had them rip out. So they'll all be rebuilt. We already have the wood for one set of stairs that goes up to the pool building. And then we're gonna get the rest of the stuff and then take care of the other sets of stairs, so.
Good, good.
Mhm.
Yeah, it needed help. It needed to be replaced. But
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
wanted to take advantage of the excavator already
Yes.
had it, so we had them all day, so we had them go rip everything apart, so.
Good, perfect.
uh,
I looked forward to seeing those done.
And the town of Cortland was broke down. That was
Oh,
why.
okay. They couldn't help today.
Yeah, so, and we went to Croton and they happily gave it to us, so.
Good. I'll have to thank the mayor.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, Scoot, how are things going with the town of Cortland? Are they supportive?
Yeah, I mean, I have a good relationship with Chris Pritchard,
Mm-hmm.
and if I have any questions or if I need anything, he's been
Good.
Good.
All right.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I have a very good relationship with him. So,
Good.
And any news on this, street sweeping? When's that gonna take place? And
yeah, I did talk to, I don't know if you guys know, it's Cooks.
Mhm.
I have a call, waiting for Brian calling back to set up the schedule. So they're gonna do it. We're planning on May, sometime in May, and we were gonna try to get it scheduled so it can be in the calendar.
Yep.
May's calendar, let people know to be off the roads.
Yep.
What roads to be off on certain days. And so, that should be taken care of, so,
Right.
all right.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thanks, Scoop.
people will be
Thanks.
very happy. I just want to mention one other thing. When the auditor was here, and Dan caught it right away where I was going. In the other fund balance with the parklands, with that money, the 240,000, we always thought that it was like a restricted. And our auditor said that we could use it, so.
Let me correct that, but Stephanie said that's normally in the order sorting generally. Our
Okay.
code is a little different. So
Okay.
she actually, before she left, she says, make sure everybody reads the code before making any decisions.
All right,
Our code might be a little bit more restrictive
okay.
than
All
what
right,
normally.
thank you. Yeah,
recreation is.
because, right away
So-
Dan said pool, so we're on the same page,
That's
but,
my process.
Okay.
That seems to be a problem every year, so.
Correct.
Let's try and use the monies that are sitting there.
Right, so I think it'll be good to get a legal opinion, depending on how the board wants to use that money before we spend the money.
Well, what's it to adjust the code?
You guys do a local law and change the code, absolutely.
Okay.
You guys have the power.
the only other thing is, and that goes in with the park usage, and as we go along with AMS or any other developers, there is something in the code that there is a fee that we have to work on, that the developer is charged for recreational facilities. So that's a discussion down the road, maybe not too far down the road. All right, so if there's no other comments right now, nobody on.
Nope, that's it.
TV?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to table the public hearing. We'll reopen it again on April 25th. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, that was it.
Okay, you'll just second that too. All right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right, everyone, have a great Buchanan day.